Can you all hear me well? Is this well? Okay, great. First of all, I encourage you all to come a bit forward, especially if you're a developer, because if there's time at the end, I want to show you a little bit of code involved, and I will try to zoom in, but I don't know how well it will come across on the screen. So if you're interested, if not, the presentation I guess is visible enough. So, welcome again. My name is Danny. Today I'm going to present to you one of the OpenEuropa components called linked lists. You may know me from WebOmelette, the website where I've been writing for the last, I don't know how many years, a lot of technical articles, etc. I also work at the European Commission as a consultant, working on the OpenEuropa initiative. I think there was a session yesterday given by Montagna about that. We essentially set out the European Commission web presence, and the websites that you see today are built by us using these components, this platform that powers these components. I will have an introduction about this in a moment. You may also know me as the author of the Drupal development book or textbook. Starting from Drupal 8, I've been updating it all throughout Drupal 9 and now Drupal 10. So you are very welcome to go ahead and buy it if you want to. If you want to have this very thick doorstop and learn some Drupal in the meantime. So, enough of this shameful advertising. Let's introduce a bit what we're going to talk about today. So first I'm going to quickly introduce OpenEuropa, just one slide. Then we're going to talk about the linked list component. So why, how, and what, how does it work, etc. Then we're going to shift gears and go into the technical of this presentation. We're going to talk about the architecture underlying this component, how it works, etc. And finalize with a live example. I mean, to show you a bit, because I'm going to go through some concepts. It's much easier to see. Part of that will be some code as well, but we'll see how that goes. And then, of course, if you have any questions. All right, so what is OpenEuropa? It's an initiative at the European Commission meant to strengthen the adoption of open source tools, essentially, and practices within its activities. It's focused on a few pillars, the three main ones being to build some loosely coupled components that can be then used for building bigger things, right? Such as distributions or whatever, different solutions for different use cases. Okay, so this is then leads into the second pillar, which is the development of these solutions for various needs within the European Commission institutions as well, using these components. And third, and very important, contributing also back to these open source projects that we use. I mean, primarily Drupal, but not only, things like Symfony, Behat, etc. So use as well as contribute back. I do encourage you to visit the OpenEuropa GitHub repository. You'll find there a lot of stuff, some information as well. Also the library of components that you'll see there with various things that we cover. Of course, some of them are specific to the European Commission, things that integrate with various services of the European Commission, but others are also useful with source plugins that are usually querying stuff that are not declarative, versus the manual bundle, which is for manual links. Like the user would manually input the data themselves. It also uses a source plugin, but it's hidden. We're going to talk about it a bit later. Okay, I'm going to see a bit the difference between these two. Then we also have something called more link plugins. Naming could be better, but okay. These are meant for a link that you would put, let's say, at the end of a list to direct the user to more information or whatever, or opening up a something, depends on the display that is being used. So it's very specific to, it's not mandatory, it's used only when needed. And finally, we also have this no results plugin. Again, you can think of views for what happens. I mean, they control what happens if there are no results coming from the source. We ship with the default one. I'm going to show you in a second. And a couple of other important aspects that play a huge role in the architecture of the thing is that we have a very specific configuration field type and widget to manage this configuration. Have it translatable, have it exposed in the form of the entity in a very specific way, etc. I'm going to show you that in the demo. And then we have some resolver events that and default subscribers that are responsible for transforming source data, like raw source data, into whatever we want to display, or to extract data right from the source data. Okay, so this was the high level. Now we're going further deeper into it. And we do so by explaining the source plugins first. So as I mentioned, they're responsible for fetching data, right? So they are generating what's called a link collection, which is a iteratable object, right, of link interface objects. Okay, so the source plugin has a getLinks method that returns this object. Okay, always. So you always get a link collection, it could be empty. And this link interface is the main thing representing one link. Okay, and it has 3 data points on it: a title, a teaser, which is an array, can be an array because we can also talk about render arrays, markup, things like that. So it's not just a string, and the URL object. Okay, so this is the simplest manifestation of a link. Okay, so. And the default implementation is the default link class that, okay, of course, it's a simple thing that implements that interface and stores that data. But on top of that, we also have an entity-aware link interface, which of course extends it, because we're talking about Drupal, we're talking about complex data, so title, teaser, and URL is definitely not enough, and we are playing with entities a lot in Drupal, so most often, we're going to have an entity attached to one of these links, right? So we call it entity aware because it has an entity to it in a certain capacity. So we have this default entity link event, class as well. Okay, so this is essentially the representation. Source plugins, I forgot to mention that they are typically used and seen with a dynamic bundle of linked lists because it allows. So like if we have multiple on a site, it allows the user when creating a linked list to pick, okay, I want to use this one or this one, similar to how we do in views, right? So we have a few plugins that we ship with, source plugins that we ship with that are already quite useful from the box, right? You can already use them. So first we have the internal link source. So this queries entities. Okay, so you pick the bundle, the entity type, the bundle, and it will return entities like a view would, right, of Drupal entities. That's it. So by its most basic form, you pick the entity type and bundle, and it will return. And I think there's a pager as well, not a pager, the number of items to return. And that's it. But we also have something called yet another plugin type underneath this called internal link source filter plugins, which you can define simple plugins, filter plugins, to expose to users to filter this query by certain things. Like, for example, filter to only show published entities or to only show whatever. It's like a similar to a views filter, but you need to define them for the very specific use cases that you have on your site. Because, okay, we will discuss a bit later the differences with views. And this source, after it gets these entities from the query, from the database, it dispatches an event resolver event, an entity value resolver event, for turning these entities into these link interface objects, right? So this is the mechanism by which we take an entity and we turn it into these link interface objects. Of course, it's going to be the entity-aware link interface because it has an entity, the node or whatever. And we also have a subscriber, a default subscriber that does the basic stuff for it. So already out of the box, you'll end up with a title, summary of the body, if there's a body in the node or whatever, and the URL. But if not, you have your own subscriber you can implement and resolve specific data from specific entity types. Then we have the the RSS link source. So this one allows you to configure one or more RSS feeds and essentially render the values of the RSS in the same kind of way, right? So we do so using the aggregator module, which is now contrib, apparently. And it essentially turns those aggregator items into link interfaces. And finally, another big one that we ship with is the manual link source, which is an internal source plugin, because we can also mark them as internal so that they don't show up when a dynamic linked list is being created. So this is used with the manual bundle only. And it's used so that editors can actually enter their own data, right? Like their own links into the linked list. And there are two types of links that can be created. So we have internal links, which essentially wrap a reference to a node and can override the title and teaser value right there on the spot. So by default, it uses the node values, but can be overridden. And external links, where you specify the URL, title, and teaser. And of course, this also comes with some resolver events that turns those values into the link interfaces. And for the internal links, it dispatches also the entity resolver event, which is dispatched also by the internal source. So we can have this implement this subscriber once, and it will work for both type cases. Right. But yeah, now it's a bit. We also, I mean, in order to store these links, we use this yet another entity type, linked list link. I know it gets a bit confusing and it gets a bit. But this is something that you don't typically need to deal with. And this is what's storing the data, and then that gets transformed into the common interface, which is the link interface. Okay. Now that we know, well, what source plugins we ship with and what they are, how they work, we can imagine the display plugins as responsible for taking that link collection and rendering it. Okay, so they're not used per item, so not per link item, but for the entire list. So they are also responsible for the list wrapper or whatever you want to put the data in. And they're also rendering the configured more link, which we're going to just talk about in the next slide. Because the more link is specific to how you want to render the entire display, right? Sometimes you want to, it goes at the end. Sometimes it's like a media gallery or something, and it needs to go somewhere. So it's very specific to the display. And the display plugins can also be restricted to a specific link list bundle. So let's say we want to only use it on the manual source, only for manual links, or for the dynamic bundle, but also per link source plugin. So we only want to show this display use this display, or make available for editors to pick this display on, let's say, the internal link source or the RSS link source. So we have this capability. In terms of what we ship with, we only ship with one title. It's simple, renders a list of linked titles, essentially, unformatted list. It's not going to get you far, but this is because The display is very specific to your site, to your theme, to your however you want to render. So there is no assumptions that the module can make about this. All right. So I mentioned the more link plugins briefly before, that they're responsible for this more link to be used by the display plugin. So imagine a list, and then you want to have you have a page where there's a bigger list, and you want to have a link to that page, like okay, read more, etc. Or you have a gallery, and it needs to pop up on something, or something, you know, and you can create it. And we ship with a default, one plugin called Custom Link, which essentially allows the editor. Was it me? Is this me? It allows the editor, I think maybe another microphone got turned on or something. Hello? Just a second, because that microphone I think got turned on. So I should turn it off. Okay. So we ship with the custom link plugin, which allows the editor to specify a link and a title, right? Like URL, either external or internal, and a title. And also it can be restricted by the bundle, and it has a get link interface method, which the display plugin can rely on to render. And it's a link object that the display plugin can then make use of. Yeah. Finally, we have the no results behavior plugins, which is as simple as they can get. And they're responsible for whatever happens if there's no values in the link collection. We ship with one simple one called hide list, which I dare you to not understand what it does. And it can also be restricted by bundle, right? So if you don't want hide list, it's very easy to define one. It's a simple class. You can have something like, okay, provide, allow editors to specify a string of text or markup if there is no values, right? If there is nothing to render. So these were the plugins. I find it important to talk a bit about translatability because, well, we working at the European Commission. We're always thinking about different languages. We're in Spain. I'm sure you're always thinking about different languages when you're building websites and stuff. So everything about linked lists that should be translatable or is translatable. So this is because they're regular content entities, right? And even that configuration that gets stored in a serialized long text in a field is stored in a translatable field, so it can be translatable. And the way we do this is that each plugin that has configuration that knows that, okay, it has to have some translatable configuration, marks those keys within the configuration array as translatable, right? So this happens typically for string values, but can also happen for a URL or whatever. It's up to you or the plugin to define it. And then they show up as translatable when you go to translate the content, the linked list entity, whereas the rest of the values are not translatable within the configuration. But I'm going to show you how this actually looks, okay? Because it's a bit different than you might expect from a Drupal entity translation form. Just as a quick bonus, also stemming from various use cases we had at the commission, we also have a submodule that allows to mark these linked lists as local. Essentially, to mark a reference field to a linked list as local, right? And to use that linked list as embedded within the content that references it. So think paragraphs, okay? As an example of this relationship, this parent-child relationship. So this, if you mark this reference as local, that linked list is gone from the system, can only be managed within that context using inline entity form, as you can imagine. But there's quite a few things that had to be done in order to achieve this correctly. So this is also optional. The component is broken up into multiple modules, so you can install what you need and what you don't need to use, but you have the option. Okay, finally, I'm finished. So maybe I will show you a bit. I'm going to sit down. Let's see how it looks. And then I zoom in. So, do you see anything? Is it good? All right, so let me refresh to make sure that my Docker is running. It's running. So, I have two articles here. I'm using, it's just a standalone install of the front end thing. This me. Article 1 with a short body and an image. I don't know why that image shows up so small. And 2 with a body and another image. Okay, so just this is the content we have on the site. I think it's it's the thing. I don't know what makes that sound. So we have the linked lists admin. So let's try to create. As you can see, we have two bundles. Let's go for the dynamic one. So this is pretty much with what we ship out of the box. So there is nothing a developer has done on the site. So we have an administrative title, so dynamic list. This is used only in the backend. A title for the list as you want. And here you can start picking the link source first. So as we have the two ones that I mentioned, we can go for internal first. Pick the entity type. There is a configuration that allows you to restrict which entity types are available. You can pick the bundle, article, we only have that. And that's it, right? And then we have a display plugin to pick. As I mentioned, we only ship with title because we don't know how you want. Here we can configure the more link. We can leave it empty, or we can use this custom link that I mentioned. So let's use one. So we can do we can either pick an internal node, or we can use an external URL. If we pick an internal node, we can also override the link, the label, more, read more. And then the no results behavior, which is mandatory, but defaults to hide, so that's it. So we save, and we can see that we have the list. It's a simple, as you can imagine, the titles and the links and the read more link. So nothing fancy. It's up to you to create the display. Let's see what else we can change here. Nothing interesting. Let's try the RSS links. So if we switch out the link source, we get the RSS link configuration, right? So we can add one or more resource URLs. So I have here the Drupal Planet feed, okay? So I'll add it, display as title, and leave the custom, the more link there, doesn't matter. And bam, we have the, I think it was as fast because the items were already there, but you can see that we are rendering the feed. And it's up to you to create another link source if you have different values to use. So now if I make a manual link list for you to better understand, we can see that we don't have a pick of a link source plugin, but we have a pick of the type of manual link we want to create. So we can do one external. And as I mentioned, we have the URL, external link, the title, and the teaser, which are all mandatory because they're part of the link interface. Okay. And we can also do an internal content one. We link to that. And here, okay, we can leave it like that, but we can also override values. So this is overriding equal to override. Right. Okay. We also render them with the title display. And there you go. We have the external link, article 1, which is resolved already to whatever that node values were, and then this one, article 2, is overridden. The teaser we don't see, but the title you can see it's overridden. So let me show you the translatability. So I'm going to translate this to Spanish. Here we can, of course, translate the links. So I can do this, yes. I'm not going to start translating these into real Spanish because I don't speak Spanish. And you can see that the display is not translatable. Nothing about the display is translatable. The morning is not translatable. That's it. This is all that we can translate here. Everything else is hidden. So now in Spanish we have these. I mean, this is quite easy to understand. But I can, for example, translate the RSS one and switch out the URL as well, because the feed URL is marked as translatable by the plugin, so you can have different feeds per different language, and this is a common occurrence that you have a feed in French or a feed in Spanish or whatever, and everything else that is not translatable is not exposed. This is translatable. You can see that the read more link is translatable. Okay. So now I'm going to show you how easy it is to make a new plugin. It's as easy as installing a module because I already wrote it before. Okay, I'm going to zoom in here. Do you see anything? Yeah? Okay. So this is the link source plugin. I need, let's say, to render data from a JSON array. Okay? Where is my JSON array? It's default files. I forgot to open this, unfortunately. Just bear with me, data.json. Data.json. This is my JSON array from whatever. And I need to render this kind of data. Okay, so I have an items array and then title, teaser, URL. Very convenient that it maps to my stuff. So we defined this JSON links plugin. We specify that this is to be used for the dynamic bundle. It implements this interface. We'll talk about that in a second. We have the default configuration keys. So we need a path. Where is the JSON? What is the data key? Like JSONs are not supposed to be direct arrays, so we kind of expect them to be inside of an object with a data key. And then the title key, URL key, teaser key. I just made these things up in 5 minutes at home before I came here. So whatever. There's a build configuration form where the editor can then configure this thing. One linked list uses one JSON, the other uses another JSON. Doesn't have to be the same. Submit form. And then the main thing, right, the get links method, which here does the job in a very, very bad way. Do not think that this is enough, but I just really quickly wrote it down. Response, decode the JSON, create a link collection, and then generate the default links based on those values, right? Which is the link interface. This default link object implements the link interface, and it has the get URL, get title, get teaser, etc. Link collection is also cacheable, so of course cache is always very important. I just put here a comment so I don't forget. So now, if we edit this, let's do another one actually. JSON. Now the user has it here. I can reference my, I hope this will work, my JSON path. The data thing key was items, title, teaser URL, okay? And then I save. I need to use a display, title display. Can you imagine? I think I need to use web. I configured it incorrectly. Saved. So now, as you can see, this thing is running directly a JSON query, loads the JSON file, and creates for me my link interfaces that now can play in the system, right, and can be rendered by a linked list. So it's that easy. But to make this translatable, because let's say we want to have a different data JSON in Spanish, I had to implement the translatable linked list plugin interface, and it has this method, get translatable parents. So this is the parents of the configuration array that are translatable. So the JSON path, the data key, the title key, the URL key. The teaser I did not make translatable just for illustration purposes, and you can see that the teaser key is not translatable. It's disabled when I try to translate in Spanish, right? And the rest are exposed. Okay, so this was a link source. I'm going to quickly show you how to make a teaser, a display plugin for rendering a teaser. Yeah. And it's as simple as implementing, again, a plugin, a link display plugin, specifying the bundle that it should be available. You extend the plugin class. You have the build method where you get the link collection, and you just take the links and do what you want with them, right? I created the teaser template, which is this, title, image, and text. And I'm just filling that up. I'm checking if it's an entity aware in case I extract an image from the node, and then I render the list and the more link thing. So again, pretty simple. So if I go to my dynamic list and I do back to internal just to show you how it turns a node into, we save. I have to do this first. I will show you in a second. Now we have, I forgot to change the display to teaser. Now we have them using my template. It extracts also the image and everything. So it's very simple to create this for your own specific needs, right? You can make box links or whatever it is that needs to, like, column stuff. I don't know. I also made an internal link source filter plugin to show you how you can create specific filters for this internal link source. So I made one called published in order to filter in or out only the published ones. So it's as simple as, again, implementing this plugin type, specifying which entity type this is for, have a configuration, and then you have an apply method which works on the query. So condition status equals whatever the user picked, similar to views. But now I only see this as a filter. I don't see all the other fields, etc., that my editor doesn't understand or know about. Okay, so this was very quickly a bit of show and tell, because I need to finalize the presentation, but not before I answer the question, why not views? Okay, sure everybody's, I'm sure somebody is thinking why we're not using views. Three main reasons. Views is configuration. We want to allow editors to create their own lists on the site, on the fly, whenever they want, place them wherever we want them to place them, of course. So that was not going to fly with views very much, and don't say config ignore and things like that, because then another important reason is that we wanted to have a very focused UI and configuration for the editors. Just show a view page to somebody and good luck with that. They will not understand what they need to do, and very easy to break stuff. So with this, you can do very specific UI and configuration for a site for its very own needs, right? And third, because we needed to have the same interface for both for dynamic lists, such as queries from RSS feeds and whatever, and manual links, people needing to input manually the links and teasers and stuff and images. We've extended this. This is what we ship with, but for our solution, we've extended this because you can make other bundles for various things. Like we made a gallery where they can reference media and stuff, and it's using the same architecture, but we were able to do so easily, and we keep building on it. There's various requirements that come, and like, okay, we need to do this. Well, we can use linked lists under the hood and just extend it by making new bundles for this. Also for the manual linked list, you can make other bundles for those links to have different references to different things as needed, right? But you have the core in place. So this allowed us to build this framework that then we can extend on. And so can you, of course, as long as you understand a bit what's under the hood. Probably not from this presentation as much as from reading the code, because always you should read the code to understand better what it does. And there's plenty of examples in the code, because the internal link source, the manual link source, RSS1 are quite complex, so there's quite a lot to learn in them as well to build your own. Yeah. And that's it. If you have any questions. Okay. If you want to talk to me after as well, it's fine. No problem. Thank you. Thank you.